You know, because this, honestly, I could tell you stories that will have you belly laughing
Oh
for
yeah,
hours.
please, please,
Like,
please. I would love to hear listen them. This
no,
this show is one of the most light-hearted conversations on non-duality. I don't love being serious about it. So
oh,
all your,
totally.
I
Yeah,
love
well, that's
paradoxical language.
that's
And
it. So I can honestly say, like, this does not take itself seriously anymore because by God, it used to. I mean, it used to take itself ever so seriously. And like, I'm really important and I am, going in this direction. I'm
that's
a
the content we want. This is the content we want. That's what I've been trying to get out of you.
oh, that's completely collapsed. So it's like this is a clown. It's just laughable. I mean, all of the things that it used to do, bless its heart, so innocent, so innocent. And it's very sweet, I mean, I don't see the seeker like on an existential level, on a cosmological or global level as a problem. It's just an innocent little sweetheart looking for its mother, not recognizing that it is the mother. It is it is wholeness, you know. So yeah, it used to get up to all sorts of ridiculous things trying to look for this enlightenment business.
Welcome to Silent Sages Speak, the podcast where timeless wisdom meets the present moment. I'm your host, Sukhdev Virdee, and in each episode, we delve into the profound teachings of non dual masters, those who have transcended the boundaries of duality and revealed the simplicity of existence. Join us on this journey beyond words as we explore the essence of being with those who have realized the truth that goes beyond language, beyond thought. Open your mind, silence your chatter, and let the wisdom of silent sages resonate within you. Today, my guest is someone who went through substances, went to clubs, bars, and video games before embarking on a spiritual quest to find enlightenment by practicing Buddhism, yoga, breathwork, meditation, until finally she discovered non duality. Today, she's an executive contributor for Brains magazine and a speaker on non duality. I'd like to welcome to the show Alexis Knight. Welcome to the show, Alexis.
Thanks, friend.
Your story, when I went onto your website, um, number one, why is the domain name Yogini Dakini? What's the story behind yoginidakini.com?
So I like stories.
Ah.
And, you know, I went through a background, apparently, of a story of pursuing yoga, tantra, qigong, meditation, and all this and that. And so that was all very enjoyable, but it never really led anywhere. And
Okay.
yoga is, as many will know, the word for union or whole, complete. And so it just was an enjoyable word to use when talking about wholeness, total, complete, boundless freedom. And the Dakini is a symbol of wild chaos, anarchy, absolute freedom. So the
Okay.
Yogini and the Dakini are like two symbols. It's just a name that it's sort of representing something that can't be defined or known. So it's just a story. It's an enjoyable symbol,
Okay.
but it doesn't really mean anything.
Okay. Dakini, like you said, is this referring to the goddess, the Kali goddess or the divine mother that's in Hinduism?
Kali would be the Hindu equivalent,
Yeah, yeah.
perhaps.
Because when you described it and how it's described on your website, I thought it's very similar to Ma
Yes,
Kali.
it's the Buddhist equivalent.
Okay.
I'm not a Buddhist, but in Buddhism, the
Yeah,
Dakini is translates as sky dancer, and it's often depicted as a female,
yeah,
naked, enlightened, wild spirit
yeah, yeah.
who's completely just chaotic and anarchy, but totally free. And she's uncompromising. That's why I like it because it's uncompromising.
Yeah.
It just cuts through. She holds a dagger because she's cutting through the ignorance, the illusion of separation.
All right, great, great. Alexis, I want you to just let us know. I would love to hear, a lot of people would love to hear your story of how you got into spirituality, maybe your childhood, what it was like, how you went from the person going to clubs and bars and using substances, video games, and then suddenly, what made you embark on the journey of spirituality and seek enlightenment? How did you get into Buddhism? I'm just asking all these questions so that I can sit back and then listen to you. How you got into Buddhism and all the other practices, and how you finally realized there's nothing to realize.
So
Oh,
we can talk about that if you want. I will just say now that although there's a story that might seem somewhat interesting, and that's fine, it doesn't really have any connection to non-duality as far as this is concerned. That's okay. But what seemed to happen was an unraveling of all of that, which revealed that all of the seeking energy, which colored that, if you like, it didn't, there's no correlation, basically. But yes, once upon a time, there was this seeking and an apparent seeker, an energy of looking for this and that. And so it takes a certain form, there's certain characteristics and mannerisms and all of that stuff. And yeah, for a long time it was punk rock, heavy metal, and then gigs and drinking, video games, horror movies, energy drinks, like it was a party. It was a party life. And then as the body got older, as new experiences happened, I started care work. So I started to work with vulnerable people, vulnerable bodies. And the first client I ever had died in front of me on shift. And this seemed to trigger something. This seemed to trigger existential questions, what's life? What's life about? What happens when the body dies and all of this and that. And that seemed to set in motion something. So there was this sort of progressive dissatisfaction with the material search for fulfillment within substances, relationships, objects, yeah. And then it slowly, gradually became more apparently spiritual. So I was an atheist, but then I started getting more and more into Eastern philosophy because Western religion didn't quite seem to do it. There was no interest in Christianity whatsoever, or Islam or Judaism. It just didn't seem to resonate at all. So I got more interested in Buddhism and the Vedic scriptures and all of that. And that's when meditation started to begin. And, reflecting on the mind, on body experiences, changing mental states, trying to practice loving kindness, the metta bhavana. And then yoga came along as well. Did yoga teacher training, qigong teacher training, I did anything to feed. Like I was looking to become more and more filled up, as it were, as a person.
yeah.
And this went on and on and on. And it took many different forms. I went through all these different routes to try and find this thing that I was looking for. In the story, I turned enlightenment into an object, the ultimate object of gratification that I can attain or achieve if I practice austerely enough. And this went on and on and on. It was Buddhism for a long time, Taoism a little bit as well, dabbed into that. Spirituality, yoga, tantra, Osho, Eckhart Tolle. I went through I went through pretty much all of the teachers. I went and I didn't sit with them in person necessarily because a lot of them are not here, but teacher, and then eventually I discovered someone who wasn't teaching me anything at all. And this is when everything apparently changed. Someone who wasn't teaching me how to become better, how to become more worthy or more whole. Someone who not only was he not teaching, but he wasn't even talking to me. But what was happening was some kind of energetic unraveling. And this cannot possibly be described other than just to say it's totally energetic. And what seemed to happen was all of the deep-rooted beliefs, opinions, views, and values about who I thought I was as a real separate self seemed to just be quite radically collapsing. And then this sort of sense of a real person living in the body located in the body with free will and choice, these things started to collapse. And everything just has been revealed to already be flowing quite graciously. And so, as far as non-duality is concerned, which is where this is coming from, enlightenment is not something that anyone ever attains. It's actually the complete collapse of the one that's going after it or running away from it.
Yeah.
It's already everything because it's unconditional. As far as this is concerned, enlightenment is a fancy word for unconditional freedom. And unconditional freedom, being unconditional, is not limited by time, space, or consciousness or experience. It's not limited by anything. It's unlimited, it's unconditional. And so that's revealed when there's this subject-object relationship. And that's like the sort of the end of that which is trying to go after it. It was kind of revealing or recognizing.
And you're from the UK. Is this all happening in the UK? Did you step out of it? Did you go to any retreats, or did you just learn this all online, books? And who was the one who made you, who taught you nothing? Who was that?
So yeah, I went many retreats, went on many Buddhist retreats, did some yoga retreats, went to fields, retreat centers, temples, did some vipassanas, all sorts. It was a buffet. I call it a spiritual buffet. So it was like an all-you-can-eat situation.
All
Like
in the UK. In the UK.
it was all in the UK, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then finally it was revealed that all of this searching, seeking, striving, craving, longing, grasping, it
Yeah.
was all wonderfully futile because wholeness has never not been what is. And the one that pointed that out or exposed it was Tony Parsons.
Okay. Okay. He's had a huge effect on a lot of people in your, at least in Europe. A lot
Yeah.
of the people I've interviewed on non-duality, most of them are like they've learned most of it from Tony Parsons. And but this is from a seeker's point of view, um, for somebody who's understanding this for the first time, listening to it for the first time, the understanding that you've got to let go, or the recognition that it's not what it can't be found, that has to dawn upon you. Until then, your mind is restless. You're still trying to, like you said, achieve an enlightenment, or trying to reach the pinnacle of what you would call the highest state, like we call it enlightenment. And there has to be an internal understanding of the person that it can't, number one, be understood, it can't be got, and then letting go of what you think and know yourself to be.
Yeah, so what I would suggest is that it's not a higher or a lower state.
Yeah.
It's a complete collapse of the polarity of higher, lower, better, worse, good, bad, right, wrong, negative, positive, etc. It's the complete absence of this polarity and duality. And what seems to occur or be brought about is the total just explosiveness. It's so sort of fully and radically alive. But the one who's trying to do that or go after it or make that happen is just seemingly perpetuating the dream of separation, of being a real person located in the body. So the seeking seems to keep that veiled somehow.
Yeah. It's like, obviously, like you describe in one of your articles. I went on to the Dreams magazine, and it's like I think one of the articles where you mentioned that it's the person in the dream trying to wake up from the dream.
Yes.
You know, the one in the dream can't wake out. The wake up,
Yeah.
it's the dreamer who would wake up,
Yeah.
and the one in the dream will never get out of the dream.
Yeah. It is the dream. Yeah. I am is the
Yeah.
dream. It
Yeah.
is the
So
dream.
this has been for how long have you been on the path, and how long did this take for, from the time that you like started off or came in touch with Tony Parsons to literally then absolutely the whole collapse?
Mm.
Was it a long process? Was it a sudden collapse? And if it is sudden, then what are the the changes that took place internally within.
Yeah, so the collapse is absolutely timeless. What seems to happen in this separation experience is a sense of everything being absolutely real and substantial.
Yeah.
And so not only does that include objects like phones and computers and other people, other bodies, but it also seems to sense that time and space is absolutely real as well. And
Yeah.
as this collapse apparently happens,
Yeah.
the whole sense of time and space being a linear path, and everything is like three-dimensional, and everything is at a distance from me. That
Yeah.
whole sort of construct, this is an illusion. It seems and feels very real when it's apparently happening, when it's apparently in place, for want of a
Yeah.
better word. But when that collapses, time and space, it's just, there's no time or space. I mean, memories appear, of course, memories and,
Yeah.
ideas, thoughts, but really it's beyond time and space. But so that never really happened in the way in which people would think it did. But however, uh, it's to put it in time, a timeless time. It was last year. It was only last year. But having said that, glimpses happened. Glimpses happened throughout the apparent lifetime. A glimpse, by the way, is like a total absence, an absence of the separation experience. So it's like there's no longer a seer or an experiencer or a sense of position. But what tends to happen is a contracting back, and then I come back. And that happened, that apparently happened many times before this had even heard of the name Tony Parsons or non-duality. It didn't know that. It had no idea what was happening. But listening to the likes of Tony and Jim and Andreas, it's like, oh yeah, of course. Glimpses.
Yeah. Wow, you're talking about Andres Muller?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. I had him on my show
Yeah, I
back. Yeah.
noticed. Yeah.
Yeah. This what I got from people like Andreas and Tony Parsons and Jim Newman and Buddhism as well. They talk about what they're talking about is what is already that. Like what there is nothing apart from what there is already.
Just what is,
And
yeah.
yeah. So in one way, we're talking about everything
Mm.
because everything that is is. I studied Advaita Vedanta extensively. I did the Upanishads, I did Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutras. So and the Nyaya philosophy. I was totally into the Jnana Yoga, path of knowledge, to
Mhm.
absolutely understand it for what it is. And there they have two aspects of the same thing. If you've read any of the Vedic scriptures, they talk about Brahman being the absolute reality, and it has two aspects, which is Nirgun and Sagun, which is nothing and everything at the same time.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think I read that on your website as well. Nothing is everything, everything is nothing. How would you explain that to a layman or somebody who's hearing it for the first time and say, "What do you mean? What do you mean everything is nothing? How can nothing be everything?" Explain that.
Yeah, yeah. So what comes about in this communication is total nonsense. This communication, even saying that there is no me, and then this will go on using the word me and I, it doesn't make sense. It's totally paradoxical.
Yeah,
What's being shared is not coming from a position of knowledge, and so it doesn't. For most bodies, it will just sound ridiculous. It will sound totally nonsensical, and in a way, it is. I mean, nothing being everything is just that just doesn't make any sense. It's like quantum. Quantum doesn't make sense, you know?
yeah,
So, I mean, these scientists have apparently discovered this from a scientific perspective that atomically speaking, there is only emptiness. And that was shared in Buddhism as well, of course,
yeah,
and the Advaita scriptures, whichever route these people go, it always seems to arrive at the same destinationless destination. Nothing. being everything simultaneously,
Yeah.
timeless, So it's totally this, what is being explored is incomprehensible. It's totally beyond the mind. It's totally beyond the grasp of a person trying to understand it intellectually or even energetically. But somehow or other, this is revealed when this energy is just it's like boundless, and it's just beyond any limitation or conditionality. And it's absolutely everything. What's revealed is that this enlightenment or wholeness or kingdom of God, however you want to word it, this what's longed for is actually all there is, because it can't be limited, because it can't be really conditioned.
Yeah.
It's everything. It's everything. It's absolutely everything. Even the going after it is what's longed for. This is like this. That's. I mean, I don't tend to use the word Brahman, but that's Brahman. That's like everything is that. Everything is that.
Yeah.
It's totally. It can't be said that it's this and not that, because as soon as you say it's this and not that, then it's limited. It's conditioned. So
Yeah.
that's the kind of unconditional freedom and nothing being everything that we're talking about or not talking about.
Yeah. I love this paradoxical language because it just like
Yeah.
twists the mind and forces you to try to make sense of something which is totally contradictory. In Advaita, they talk about Satchitananda. So when we say everything is, that's Sat. Sat means being itself, existence itself.
Hmm.
So existence itself is not a thing, but
No.
everything is in existence.
Hmm.
You see, so existence is nothing, but it contains everything. So they use these words, Satchit Ananda, and then consciousness again. Consciousness is that which contains all our experience, internal emotions, thoughts, and whatever intellect, memories, internally, our mind, knowledge. Consciousness contains all that, or is all thoughts and knowledge arises in consciousness and subsides in consciousness, but consciousness itself is not a thought. You
No.
cannot think of consciousness, but you can't think without consciousness.
Well, the way in which this communication would differ there is that consciousness is knowing. So it's knowing the thought. It's knowing the thought is happening. It's awareness of the thought happening.
Right.
This is where this particular elaboration of non-duality differs from other teachings and other people who talk, is that consciousness is essentially the distance between the subject and the object. So as long as there's a sense of consciousness, there's a sense that someone is conscious and something to be conscious of.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's the way in which this word consciousness is being used, because consciousness, I am conscious of this conversation, for example. That's subject and object, one and two. It's dualistic. Now, you can replace that word if you want, or we can, part on the agreement, which is fine. But when this apparent collapse happens and non-duality is revealed to be everything and nothing, paradoxically, there's no longer a sense of someone having an experience. There's no longer a sense of someone claiming or owning this and that or knowing the thoughts. It's just the total spontaneity and immediacy of what appears to be. And in that respect, is totally free flowing. It's so sort of vibrant and free and alive,
Yeah.
but it's not conscious. It's not consciousness. It's not, no one's or no thing is conscious of it.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
can't be comprehended. And most people will disagree with that because they live in that conscious experience of being a separate subject with lots of separate objects.
That would go into Sankhya philosophy where they separate consciousness and nature. So there's consciousness and there's nature. And that's duality.
Yeah.
But they in that philosophy they claim that these are two realities. They are separate realities, but they are two in nature. Consciousness is not a thing. It's nothing. There is no thing called consciousness. So consciousness, like existence, also is not a thing. What you're talking about is absolutely correct, because when we say non-duality, there is no second to be aware of or conscious of. We can't even call it one. It can't be one. You
No.
can't use a word. The moment you think about it or say a word, you've already polluted it. It
Mhm.
it's that pure. It can't be put into a box. It's this or that, or both this and that, or neither this or that. It's none of them. And yet not apart from them.
Yeah.
So it's like nothing, but not apart from everything.
Yeah, so
That
it's
makes
just
sense.
totally, immediately this, what is.
Yeah. So here's the question now. Everything what is obviously is constantly changing in time, space, and identity in objects. So a tree would be cut down, furniture would be made, furniture would break, it would be used as firewood. It's energy just transforming into other things. But when we say it just is
Hmm.
what is seems to be changing all the time as well. How would you
Yeah,
answer
so
that?
it seems to be changing from the perspective of the sense of me observing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when time has sort of collapsed, the sense of time has collapsed. Of course, the body goes on with conditioning. It goes on with the conditioning of going to work, having conversation, going to a cafe or having a walk around the park, whatever. It still does that conditioning beautifully by itself. But this whole sense of time being real collapses, and so time isn't really happening. And so cause and effect isn't really happening, and therefore process and change isn't really happening. It appears to happen from a particular perspective, but it's not really like that. It might seem like that from a certain perspective, but really there is actually nothing happening.
I understand that. I understand that. I'm just trying to put up questions that somebody on the path would have, and the questions that I had when I started off. These are all questions I would have. In fact, somebody when I talk to I don't talk to people who are not into non-duality nowadays, but the ones that I do talk to, if I picked up something, like here's a phone. Now,
Hmm.
how do you explain that this is not real? I am touching it. I see it. I can feel it. It's here in my hand. How do you explain that? How do you want me to believe or accept that this is just an illusion?
No, it can't be accepted or believed. It's totally unbelievable. And the hand that's feeling the solidity of the phone
Yeah.
is also empty, you know? So this
True.
isn't like as soon as emptiness has been revealed. I mean, it never gets revealed to someone. The
Yeah.
revealing is the end of someone. It's the end of a sense of someone. And
Oh,
so that's the total unconditional emptiness of everything.
yeah.
Emptiness of matter,
Yeah.
but also of thoughts and perception, emptiness of ideas, emptiness of everything. And it's empty, but it's completely full, paradoxically and simultaneously. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that can't be, no sort of conceptual understanding or intellectual reflection or even meditation will bring that about. It just happens as the contracted energy collapses.
So how does somebody work towards this contractual, this energy? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out, uh, you know, in even in Advaita Vedanta, it's a path of knowledge. And there's
Mm.
so many people who come in and they learn it and they say, yeah, I understood it, but now what do I do? And then,
Yeah.
then the question is, if you're asking that what you should do, then you haven't understood it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
there is nothing to do.
No, no. And there is no one to fall away. That's the thing. This communication that's coming out is not validating the notion that someone feeling separate is wrong or a bad thing. It's
Yeah.
just simply exposing that which appears to be contracted is actually boundless energy, just appearing to be contracted. It's a magic trick. It's a magic trick. It's totally wonderful. It doesn't need to change. It has no agenda. It has no purpose. It has no intention to change. It's just wonderfully wholeness appearing as whatever it is. And so this doesn't see that that's a problem or that it needs to be fixed, solved, cured, or changed. It's just what is. But somehow or other, for some, just simply exposing that through this communication can seem to allow for some kind of unraveling, but that's not conceptual. No conceptual understanding will bring that about. This is purely energetic, like an energetic resonance that the body can feel, but that is the absence of a sense of someone trying to bring the resonance about. The resonance is a sort of a shimmering of the sense of someone, and then it can kind of, yeah. So it's, whereas teachings and paths will all try earnestly, or at least a lot of the time, earnestly and sincerely, to try and bring that change about. But that's based on the notion that there is a real someone in the body who really can control the outcomes of life and who can really move along a path towards liberation. But liberation, as we've already said, is beyond conditionality, and therefore it doesn't live in the future. It can't be limited by the future, because then it wouldn't be liberation. It wouldn't be freedom.
Yeah. I'll tell you how this a few of the paths work, especially Advaita Vedanta. Here are the questions you've got to ask on the non-dual path. So you say it cannot be known. We can't know it.
No, it's the end of knowing.
Now, so here's the question then. Now, if you can't tell me what it is, you can at least tell me what it is not. If I know what it is not, then I might know what it is. If I understand why it can't be understood, then I've understood that which cannot be understood. You see how they work?
Correct.
So in the Vedas, they use techniques like neti neti, not this, not this. Anything that you can say, this is this, it's not that. Anything to this body, to your thoughts, to your awareness, your consciousness, this is it. No, that's not it. So they use techniques which negate. It's like trying to understand the word infinite. We say it is infinite in nature. It's everywhere. It's everything. Infinite cannot be explained in words conceptually at all. It can only be explained in negative terms. What is infinite? That which is limitless, unmeasurable. Or what else do they use for limitless? That which cannot be, that which includes all finite things. So if you can't say what infinite is, then study what finite is. That's why we say infinite is limitless. So the finite must be limited. What kind of limitations? Time, space, and objects. The work backwards in those kind of texts. It's a backward way of learning why it cannot be understood. And then finally, like, have you come across saints like Ramana Maharshi, Vivekananda, Nisargadatta Maharaj? So like Ramana Maharshi says, let what comes come, let what goes goes, find out what remains. Try to see what is there all the time. It's like existence, like I just said, things. What is always there. It's always going to be there. It just keeps changing form. It might change from this form to another, but the fact that it is will never change. You have some contradictory statements to that. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to hear them.
Well, it's just that what's being shared isn't a process because it's timeless, so it can't be practiced. There's no, as far as non-duality is concerned, in the absolute respect of totally nothing being everything, beyond limitation, unconditional freedom being beyond time and space, it can't be turned into a path, because a path requires a journey and a destination, an A and a B, and that's dualistic. So this non-duality can't be turned into a path or a practice, because as soon as a practice or a process seems to happen, duality is back into play. There's a sense that I'm moving in a direction. But think of it this way, if we could use a metaphor, at least for a moment, non-duality, it was suggested in one of the more recent articles, is like is exposing that the fish in the water is looking everywhere for the ocean.
Yeah.
It's looking everywhere. So for some, at least, for me, certainly, like in the past, it was like I'll follow the Buddha's Noble Eightfold Path, and then I'll follow the 8 limbs of Ashtanga yoga, or maybe I'll focus on Karma yoga or Bhakti yoga or Jnana yoga or Raja yoga or whatever yoga or Qigong or Tai Chi or crystals, breathwork, sound baths, tarot, like anything. I'll be going in this direction, and if I pursue like earnestly and sincerely, but also austerely enough, then eventually I'll get to the ocean. Non-duality is pointing out that the ocean is absolutely everywhere, all at once, all the time, already. You can't move towards or away to unconditional freedom. It's all encompassingly everything. So there's no process or path that could bring that about. What simply happens is the end of the seeking energy, and what's revealed never actually left. It was never really gone. It never really was lost, and therefore it can never really be found. It's everything.
Yeah, that's great. That's super. Why I was laughing is because there's a whole story. The people on the path, the people who are on the path, whichever path it may be, it's why don't I see the absolute truth that everyone's the non-dual people or Buddha or Jesus or these people are talking about? Why can't I see it? Whatever you're saying, I don't see it, I don't experience it. So for such a person, like even me before I got into it, it's because you don't feel that you're already free. You don't experience that freedom. Then you've got to be given the illusion that you are bound. It's an illusion that you are bound. And then it's an illusory freedom. And then you realize all that path and everything that you did really was just an illusory bondage and an illusory freedom. You were always free. It was always there. It's just for the person who wants to do something. You've said this is it, or this is the truth, and everything it's here. It's like the fish in the water. If it doesn't know what water is, where will it find? It will still struggle. It will go around the ocean until it just stops and bees, and this is, oh, this is what they're talking about. I've been in it all the time. But it will not do that until it goes around the ocean and struggles and tries all out, everything out.
But it never really
sees.
It's the end of seeing. It's the end of looking for it. It's just like, oh, okay, of course, of course. And the body, this is pointing out quite provocatively, and that's what's happening, but it's provocatively pointing out that liberation does not happen to you, it happens from you.
For you.
This is from you. This is liberation from the sense of a separate individual. That which is looking for unconditional freedom dies into unconditional freedom. And it can never know what wholeness is, because wholeness is the absence of separation, and separation is wholeness appearing as separation. So separation energy, the subject that's so desperate to know what wholeness is, can never know what wholeness is, because it's totally institutionalized by being a separate self. That's why it's a dream that no one wakes up from. When the dream ends, the separation energy ends, and wholeness is revealed to no one, to nothing. It's just simply what already is. It's never not been. It never couldn't be, because it's not bound by time.
Yeah. It's like the person doesn't get freedom. You get freedom from the person.
But it's not a you, though. It's not a sense of you.
They can't be a you if that is there all is. They can't be a you then. That's why I said you can't call it one. You can't even call it non-dual. You can't say anything about it. It just is what it is. There are a few differences between Buddhism and Advaita Vedanta, isn't there? If you've studied Buddhism, would you be knowing what kind of places they disagree on?
Well, I don't, Buddhism is, again, based on a teaching, or at least that's the ism part. I mean, no one really knows what the Buddha actually said 2,500 years ago after he got up
Yeah.
from the Bodhi tree and started talking with people. I mean, who even knows if that even happened? No one really knows because no one.
Yeah.
But as far as Buddhism is concerned, it's a teaching. It's a teaching how you can live a life of morality, skillful mental states, which is lovely, by the way. I'm not knocking it. You know, I practiced it for years and it was very enjoyable and it seemed to help calm the nervous system and all of that stuff. But it never really led to that which is already,
Yeah.
because you can't get to what is already. But it was all about, you know, skillful action, skillful speech, skillful emotion, skillful, you know, the Noble Eightfold Path, the effort and the livelihood and the samadhi and all of this and that. So there are similarities because they both apparently stem from India, but it's a teaching. It's a teaching based on people, you know, following this person and meditating and this and that. It's a teaching. It's a path. And the similarity perhaps would be is the non-separation, because it's trying, at least trying, to point to non-separation, but it's using dualistic means. So Buddha talked about no self, anatman,
Yeah.
and Advaita, or at least a lot of Vedic scripture, seems to talk about Atman, the self.
Yeah.
So they're using these words and it all gets rather complicated unnecessarily.
Okay.
But then you get, you know, branches and branches and branches of Buddhism who all are all saying different things. I mean, ultimately, they all seem to have one thing in common,
Yes.
which is the Buddha. But Zen seems to be the closest, but even that's dualistic. But it seems, because it, you know, it's just about simply what is, simplicity of what is, sitting without agenda, nothing being with agenda, just.
Okay. Yeah. You said you did Taoism as well.
Yeah, I studied and explored that to some extent, yeah, which is obviously Chinese
Yeah.
philosophy and wisdom.
I love the book Lao Tzu wrote, the Tao Te Ching. And I don't know what kind of teachings they have in Taoism. Would you mind sharing a few of them? I think it's from the book itself, it's totally non-dualistic, obviously. Um, but he talks about a lot of again the way of living and how to carry yourself. And he talks about he's got an interesting uh, quote in one of the verses. He says, uh, "I don't know what the Tao is, but I know it's older than God." I
Yeah.
know it's older than God. Tell me about Taoism. I've never heard about Taoism from anybody.
Well, it seems to come close. It seems to come close. But as soon as it's applied, someone tries to apply it, it immediately becomes dualistic. But as a sort of an exposure of what is, it seems to be non-duality. But as soon as it gets applied as a process that we can use to make our life better, because
Yeah,
that's the only way in which it will be applied,
yeah,
otherwise it's useless, and this communication is utterly useless. Taoism seems to suggest that the Tao is indescribable, incomprehensible, totally boundless and free. It's everything, therefore.
yeah.
And so, of course, possibly the best verse in the entire book is the first verse,
The first one. I was
which
just
is
going to say that. Yeah.
the same pretty much. Well, it's not the same necessarily, but it's pretty much almost the same as non-duality, because non-duality can't be talked about. The
Yeah.
non-duality that can be told is not non-duality.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the first
It's
verse. The Tao
yeah,
that can be spoken about is not the eternal Tao.
yeah,
The name that can be named is not the eternal name.
yes,
Yeah. Great,
yes.
great, great. Now tell me, how did you come into now teaching non-duality? I see on your website you take a lot of Zoom classes, you do one-on-ones, you have the magazine, the Brains magazine. You're one of the top contributors on that. How and you do group meetings at homes as well. Tell me how you came about teaching and what do you teach when you're teaching nothing?
So I have to say that I'm not teaching anything. I'm not doing anything at all. But
Ah,
what seems to be coming about is an exploration and an exposure of what is already. So that can't be taught because it's not known and it's not philosophized or sort of applied to someone's life. It's simply an elaboration that comes out of nothing. Of course, I've heard words, read books, and done this and that. I've heard Tony speak and other people. So yes, that what's being shared is pretty much the same message. It is the same message, or at least it seems like that. But it's not like someone is doing that. It's just flowing. It is flowing. It's heard the message and now it's flowing. It seems just flowing by itself. No one's sitting in the brain, sort of
yeah, yeah.
in the driver's seat, controlling all of the things. But what seems to happen is a sharing of that which can't be described or known. It's an energetic revealing of what already is boundless and free. And that tends to happen in meetings on Zoom. It's been happening meetings in person as well. It's also happening in other places, events and stuff. And yeah, articles getting written up, videos being made. It's a lot of fun, you know. I mean, this for some reason or other, I mean, this as well, like it's absolutely delightful. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Um,
What kind of questions come up in such meetings? I understand when you say it's just spontaneously and it flows out. And I know from this point of view, you never would go prepared. You don't know what you're going to talk about, and you just let it come out.
no,
Yeah. Uh,
yeah,
I do that all the time. I'm actually listening to myself when I'm talking because I don't know what I'm going to say. And
it's
so, but
total
what,
free flow. It's total free flow.
yeah,
Spontaneous.
what kind
Yeah.
of questions come up? What kind of questions do people ask you in such meetings?
So all sorts of questions can come up. A lot of them are about the me. So a response about the me or the not me, you know,
Yeah.
comes up. The things that tend to get talked about are like fear. You know, that's a big one. People talk a lot about fear and emotions and anger. That's been coming up a lot recently.
Okay.
And you know, contraction and boundlessness. We talk all sorts like what is the contracted energy? Why is the contracted energy? And these kinds of questions arise. What is it like when there's no contracted energy? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? All, you know, why questions, who questions, why, when, who, what, where, you know, all of that.
So how do you bring them towards non-duality from such a question? So for something like fear, so fear of what? Of bad things happening, or fear of death, or from
Yeah.
fear, how do you point them back to non-duality?
Well, it's exposing that all this is going to be sounding like paraphrasing now, so apologies to you and everyone else listening, but it, it's gonna it will sound like that, but it's just all there is what is. It's just so sort of totally radically ordinary and stunningly simple, totally wonderfully simple, that
Yeah.
all there is what is appearing to be. It's not wrong, it's not right, it's not bad, good. It just is what it is. Preferences also is what is. Conditioning is what is. Ideas, memories, beliefs, opinions, views, and values, even, are also what is appearing to be. And the sense that someone is having all of that as an objectified experience is also what appears to be happening. But what it's exposing is the one that's apparently claiming that as an experience that's happening to me is an illusion, and that all there is what is, and it's nothing. It's actually nothing at all.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Great. So you said this apparently happened like about a year ago when it the collapsing and all that. You said, how has life changed after that? Any changes in your attitude towards life, or what you do, or how? What is a typical day in your life after that? Or are there any gradual changes that took place?
So what seems to be the apparent change is that everything is just unfolding without a sense of someone claiming it, without a sense that someone is owning this as an experience.
Okay.
Just total, these are my favorite words, immediate, spontaneous, free flow. It's totally immediate because there's no distance, there's no sense of space here and there. There's just immediacy,
Yeah.
pure, raw, organic, alive, wild, vibrant immediacy. It's totally spontaneous because time isn't real. So it's spontaneous, it's chaos, it's anarchy. It's also tremendously peaceful a
Yeah.
lot of the time, not all the time. And it's free flow. There's no filter. There's no
Yeah.
filter. There's no sense of someone trying to control everything. So it's not filtered. It's not like trying to run it or steer it this way or that way. It's just allowed. And that maybe for a lot of ears will sound all very special, significant, important, and impressive, but it has to be said that it isn't. It isn't special or impressive, and it's certainly not better. It's not better than a separate self who's feeling agitated. It isn't. It isn't better. But because of the spontaneity, the immediacy, and the free flow, there's no longer this, or at least apparently no longer this neurotic drive to be going towards a destination, to be going after something as an object of gratification. That all totally collapses, and it's just free-falling madness. And so the body is just, it seems like as though there was a past. It's just a bit more relaxed, and it's a lot more simple,
Yeah.
and all the needs to like prove oneself and improve and impress others, that is just totally ridiculous, ludicrous. Not bad. It's not bad, but because this, honestly, I could tell you stories that will have you belly laughing
Oh
for
yeah,
hours.
please, please,
Like,
please. I would love to listen to them. This
no,
this show is one of the most light-hearted conversations on non-duality. I don't love being serious about it. So
oh,
all your,
totally.
I
Yeah,
love
well, that's
paradoxical language.
That's
And
it. So I can honestly say, like, this does not take itself seriously anymore because by God, it used to. I mean, it used to take itself ever so seriously. And like, I'm really important and I am, going in this direction. I'm
that's
a
the content we want. This is the content we want. That's what I've been trying to get out of you.
oh, that's completely collapsed. So it's like this is a clown. It's just laughable. I mean, all of the things that it used to do, bless its heart, so innocent, so innocent. And it's very sweet, I mean, I don't see the seeker like on an existential level, on a cosmological or global level as a problem. It's just an innocent little sweetheart looking for its mother, not recognizing that it is the mother. It is it is wholeness, you know. So yeah, it used to get up to all sorts of ridiculous things trying to look for this enlightenment business, not knowing that that is everything because it's
Yeah.
unconditioned.
It's like a cosmic joke when you actually realize it. It's like the universe
Absolutely.
has just played the biggest joke there could be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
When
I
life is just radically allowed to be what it is, it's indescribable. Like cats and dogs, dolphins and birds, like it's just like, of course. Children too, to a great extent. Like there's no seeking going on. It's just like there's no need. There's no need
yeah,
for anything.
yeah.
Everything is like, wow, wow.
Yeah, you're awestruck. You're in the middle of the biggest magic show there ever could be. And you're
Yeah.
right in the middle of it, getting a first-hand view of the entire show going on.
Yeah.
And
It's
you're
like the
awestruck.
yeah, it's like the ultimate firework display, which has been put on for no one and by no one.
Beautiful. I went onto your website. Went through a few of your pictures. I want to see your tattoos.
Ah,
If you don't mind, if they're
but
private, that's
these,
fine. If they're private, that's fine. I saw Om over there, and
yeah,
I
so
couldn't make out the others. What are the ones below that? I couldn't
So
make that.
these are apparently the seven chakras.
Okay. Oh, all right. But
So
are they the symbols or is it the words, the sounds?
well, it's this, yeah, well, it's all of it really.
It's
It's
a
the that is
symbol.
this that is the symbol, but I believe it corresponds to the sound because that's obviously Om, isn't it?
That's Om, yeah.
Um,
Even the one below that seems to be Om. So the
yes,
seventh chakra, obviously, the where it's completely silent. Then that's the Agya chakra. That's Om.
and
Then
this is the
below you've got
throat, the
the
heart, the
throat, the
solar
heart.
plexus, the sacral, and the root. Yeah, they're
Wow,
just it's
wow.
colorful stories, colorful
Ah,
stories. I mean, it's a rainbow, so it's very fun.
yeah, it's very colorful. It's beautiful. I thought I must see it if I could get you
Yeah.
to talk about it. Um, ah, now you on your website there are a lot of things. What about the magazine? One another interesting article on your magazine was where you're talking about free will.
Mm.
I think somebody's asking you if this is all there is, then everybody would just go about and do anything they want and say, this is all there is. So I can't be accountable. I'm not responsible for what's
Yeah.
happening. And then you had a very good answer to that.
Yeah, it's a common misconception that when it's exposed, that free will is an illusion because the I that feels it has free will is an illusion. A common a common response to that is, well, I will just do what I want.
Yeah.
But that is like it's not even heard what's being said because it said, well, if there is no one and there's no free will, who is going to make the choice to do what they want?
Yeah.
It's trying to apply something which is actually exposing that there's no one to apply it. As soon as that gets held of by this separate energy, it distorts what's being shared. It's not really hearing what's being shared because what's being shared is not about a you or a me. It's not about anyone. It's exposing that already this is free flowing chaos. So no one could try and apply that. So as to say, well, then it won't stand up in court because I'll just go and
Yeah.
steal a car or whatever,
Yeah.
and then when I get caught, I'll just say, well, it wasn't me, judge, jury, and executioner. It's like,
Yeah.
well, it happened. It apparently happened. So free will is, yeah, there's no free will. There's no one to be having free will.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about this is that seeking energy is so sort of desperate and longing for freedom, yet it desperately, simultaneously, contradictorily wants to be in control.
Ah, yes.
And when it's like totally obvious that there's absolutely no control whatsoever, it's just so sort of allowed to be freeing, like to be free flowing by itself. So that only seems to come about when it's like this separation energy falls apart because these words, these hand gestures, the moving on the chair, that like everything is already happening and unfolding
Yeah.
by itself. I mean, think about the hair growing, the nails growing, the eyes blinking, the heart beating, the digestive system. It's so obvious that there's no real control in the
Yeah.
sense of someone being in control, and
Yeah.
yet it thinks that it's in control of its thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, your sound is gone.
Are we here?
Yeah. Yeah. You're back.
Yeah, so I'll just say a little bit about that again, just in case for the editing. But it's like the nails growing, the hair growing, the digestive system, the endocrine glands producing hormones,
Yeah.
neurotransmitters, the nervous system. I mean, there are billions of functions, apparently, of the human body. It's so obvious that there's no control. It couldn't be more abundantly obvious. And
Yeah.
yet, this separation energy is just so sort of rigorously trying to assert that it has control, and rather sadly for it, there isn't. But when it's revealed, it's like, gosh, this couldn't be more freeing.
Yeah.
This couldn't be more freeing. I mean, the conditioning obviously goes on. The body still speaks a certain language and it still goes on, being chatty or using small talk or whatever. But it's not like someone feels like they're doing that. So what is suggested is that the sense of free will is mistaken as free will. It's actually tension. It's like holding on to the reins of a horse, thinking that you are actually steering the horse, but really it's just tension. And when the reins are like let go, the horse carries on riding itself. There was no need for someone, a sense of someone to be clinging on. All that's doing is making the body more agitated.
But would you say now that until that is revealed to you or you realize it, until then, you would have to even think that, oh yes, I need to do my duties and play my roles in the world until I realize, that it's all an illusion. That
So
should go on.
yeah, so the um the sense of control is not a thought or a belief. It's an energetic, felt sense of being housed in the body. So it's an energetic sense of being in it, like here, like in space here,
Yeah,
and it's also felt as tense, like localized and contracted. It's like tense. It feels tensed,
yeah.
and it feels like visceral, like it feels in the body or with the body or possessed. And yeah, that can't be changed necessarily with thoughts. They'll just find another story. But when that energy loosens, for want of a better word, and it just seems to wobble or shake or glimpse or collapse, apparently collapse, yeah, it's just I'm just going to
I
switch
love
the
it.
light on. I don't know how much longer we got, but it's getting dark in here.
I thought that looked really good. I thought you
Yeah.
switched the lights off. I studied music. I'm a musician. I'm a singer. I'm a pop singer. I'm born and brought up in Kenya, and I came to the UK. I studied music in Slough Langley College, East Berkshire. So for the first in the first time I saw winter, I was amazed. I was like, "What the hell is going on?" At 3 in the afternoon, it's dark. It's pitch dark. I was like, "Whoa,
Yeah,
what's going on? What's going on?" And
yeah.
10 up till 10 in the morning, there's no sunlight. I had never experienced that. But I love the summers there when the sun is out till 10, 11 at night.
All right.
And
Was that up in Scotland, was it? Oh,
no, I was in Slough, Greater London, near the airport,
oh,
near
okay, okay.
Heathrow.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I studied music there, and I was there for
Mm.
about 2 years. I used to go and perform at the local Indian clubs and pubs. So during the summer, I would go in at about 9 p.m. The sun is blazing forth, 9 p.m. I would come out at 3 in a.m. and the sun is still blazing forth.
Yeah,
It's already gone down and back up. I used
yeah,
to love that.
yeah.
Um, Alexis, now tell me, how can people get in touch with you? What all, where can they learn more from you? And you do offline meetings as well. I think from what I read, at some place in somebody's house or some place. Your Zoom meetings, I will be putting all the links in the description. But I want to hear from you if you have any events lined up,
Hmm.
anything, wherever somebody can learn about nothing more from you.
Well, thanks, man. This has been absolutely delightful. Um, what, yeah, so the website is yoginidakini.com. If you type in Alexis non-duality on Google, it should turn up.
Okay.
YouTube as well. The YouTube channel is called Alexis non-duality.
Okay.
Currently, meetings are happening on Wednesdays and Fridays. Those are public meetings. They're both online. So 5:30 till 6:30 p.m. BST at the moment on
Yeah.
Wednesdays, 3 till 4 p.m. BST on Fridays. There's also meetings happening on occasion in various places. So there's one happening in Brighton at the end of May. That's a weekend in-person situation, which will be recorded. Yeah,
Okay.
and
Do you
more
put
stuff
up the
coming.
recordings? I saw a section for recordings on the website. You put
Yeah,
them up
so the
on the website?
recordings, the website has a link to the meetings on YouTube. So
Okay,
they're all
okay.
like on YouTube, the
Yeah,
ones that
all
have
right.
been recorded. And one-to-ones are available as well for those who like, would like to. And even just, people can send a text or call or send an email if they want. All the details are there on the website. So I like to make these meetings, free of charge for those who can't afford to come. But donations are also greatly appreciated for those who would like to.
Yeah, yeah. All right, great. So, final question: uh, what do you, how like I asked you earlier, what is a typical day? What do you go about during the day doing? Is it just teaching non-duality, or do you have other work that like the daycare work that you are doing? What else goes on apart from teaching non-duality?
So I don't teach non-duality. It apparently gets shared from the body.
Yeah, apart from
Um,
that now, yeah.
but yeah, so I work in a school 3 days a week in term time. I work in a special needs school, working with disabled children and
My
um,
sister does that. She's in the
yeah,
UK. She stays in Reading and she works for disabled school as well, special needs.
that's what happens. So I go there and we do, breathing and stretching and relaxing so that the body, the children can, find a bit more comfort in the body,
Yeah. Wow.
or the body can find more comfort. A lot of those children don't seem to be enmeshed in the separation experience.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can imagine.
interestingly.
Yeah. When I come down to the UK, I'll surely get in touch with you. What part of the UK are you in?
Oh, that'd be amazing. So
All
it's
right.
Leicester. Leicester is
Oh,
in
you're
the
in Leicester.
East Midlands. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a huge Indian community, Gujarati community there.
there
I used to
is.
come there to perform. Yeah, there is. There is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
awesome.
Is there anything that you would like to say, you'd like to share that I may have missed out, or you'd like the listeners to get across, or anything that we've missed out?
Well, nothing comes to mind other than just the expression that what all seekers are longing for, what everyone is looking for when they're feeling separate, is what is already this unconditional freedom, which is
Yeah,
boundless and alive and free. It's all there is. It's everything. It can't be moved away from or towards. It's simply all there is. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I want to thank you very much for hosting this because it's been good fun. It's been really nice speaking and meeting you.
Thank you, thank you. I really truly appreciate. I'm so grateful for you taking all the time and being here and sharing all this. You've been through so many different paths and different experiences on the back to come and tell. It's nice to hear this from people who have been through it, um, because then you realize, the people who are on the path realize, yes, at the end this may be a path I'm following, but it's not gonna, it's got to end somewhere. I can't be on the path all the time. And
Mm.
when it ends, like Advaita Vedanta, um, we talk about everything being an illusion. And so here's the question: if everything is an illusion, what about the teaching of Advaita Vedanta itself? Is that an illusion? And because it is part of the entire illusion. So is the teaching an illusion? And Vedanta says, yes, that also is an illusion. But do
Yeah.
not but do not make the mistake of taking it to be an illusion until you have realized what it's talking about.
Mm.
Yeah. So you have been through all that. I really truly appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Final words?
Yeah, well, it is absolutely causeless, this sort of collapse or freedom, enlightenment or liberation, whatever you want to call it, is never claimed by someone, and it's not caused by anything. There are some bodies that seem to just they've never read a book, they've never heard the words
Yeah, yeah,
philosophy,
yeah,
enlightenment,
yeah,
Advaita, or whatever, and they're just walking through a park or on the bus or whatever, and all of a sudden, boom, nothing, like
yeah,
just nothing.
yeah,
And there are some bodies that seem to go through the whole lifetime without this sense of separation ever apparently taking place. And then there are some who will, practice austerely with meditation, you know, mantras or whatever, and there's that never a sense of non-separation. So there's no rules. There's no rules. It's
Oh yeah,
totally
yeah, yeah,
totally causeless.
yeah.
Yeah, which is frustrating to the me because it wants to know that it can bring
Yeah,
this about through some sort of induced state of relaxation or samadhi, but really it's beyond cause and effect because
yeah,
it's boundless. It doesn't play by the rules of cause and effect, time, space, or you know, or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. And yet it's not apart from all of them.
Well, yeah, it's all encompassingly everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the paradoxical part of it. So thank you again, once again, Alexis. I will put all the links below, and it's been an absolute honor. And you have a beautiful smile. I love your laughter. Your tattoos are beautiful, and I will make it a point. I think I might be coming there in the next couple of months in the UK. I have my sister lives in Reading. My in-laws stay in Slough. I have a lot of friends in Harrow, Leicester, Birmingham. So when I do come, I will get in touch. Thank you so much, Alexis.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. See you soon. Much
Yeah.
love. Much love.